Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off, because today I'll be reviewing Dungeons & Dragons Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel from Wizards of the Coast. Should you and your friends be chomping at the bit to embark upon these journeys? Or would you be better served leaving your tickets unpunched? You're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang channel. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be reviewing D&D Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel in just a moment. But I do want to also point out, I will be revealing the winner of my copy of the alternate art edition, at least alternate cover art edition, in just a bit too, in the midst of the video. So stay tuned. If you got into the running, I'm going to tell you who won. Also, I should point out, this is probably going to be a bit quicker review than you're used to seeing from me. And the main reason is I'm going to San Diego Comic-Con to cover the convention. And we thought we were going to be able to fly out tomorrow morning on passes. It's not looking too good. So I am going to have to fly out tonight, and I am not ready. But I did want to make sure to share a review as well as tell you who the winner is as well. So as I mentioned today, I am reviewing Dungeons & Dragons Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel from Wizards of the Coast. This 224-page hardcover arrived in stores today, and it does carry an MSRP of $49.95. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. Couple of things to mention before I jump on in. First off, the fine folks over at Wizards of the Coast were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other compensation for me to share this review with you. And these days, it's very important that you know that. Also, I'm going to stay picture in picture up here. So as I page on through, I am going to be cutting off a little bit of the upper portion of the book. Also, I'm not going to look at each and every page. I'm going to kind of skim through this. I'm going to talk about things that I like about this adventure compendium and things I'm not so keen on. All right, so let's jump on in. Should point out that if you want to get a bit more of an in-depth look at each of the adventures and the book itself, you definitely want to check out my first look and page through video. I'll actually put a card up, so if you'd like to click on that to check that out, by all means, please do. So we start off with some information about the Radiant Citadel, which is a locale on the ethereal plane. And it's a refuge for people fleeing various different other planes and other locations. And it's kind of a safe haven for all of these people. The Radiant Citadel was actually something that was created long before the people who are involved with it now were around. So it was rediscovered. And there's a number of different civilizations who are kind of like founding members of the Citadel. And some of those civilizations have disappeared. So there are some story and adventure hooks there for you as well. So we'll get some information about some of the important NPCs and their motivations, some of their fears or their flaws as well. This is actually pretty interesting, and I think this will fit in very, very nicely with the upcoming release of Spelljammer that a lot of people are very excited about. Although I got to admit, I'm I'm looking forward to checking it out because, as I've pointed out before, I hadn't really played D&D since Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and I really never got into the various different settings that were available, like Ravenloft and Planescape and things like that. So I am curious about it, although the page count is pretty short. So I'm wondering what they're going to cram into that book. So we've got 13 adventures. They are going to range from level 1 all the way up to level 14. And to be very, very honest, they are a bit of a mixed bag. I will say I do like this book better than I did with the Strixhaven book. I just was not much of a fan. Here, at least, we've got a great variety of various different styles. So we've got some more lighthearted adventures. We've got some that are dire and deadly adventures as well. So that's very cool. Do want to mention that all these adventures have been created by people of color. I know some folks out there are getting bent out of shape about that. Like Wizards of the Coast is using that as it's the only selling point of this book. And that is not the truth. And I think people getting ticked off about that are being silly. Now, that said, if you're not a fan of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons or the changes that have kind of taken place in adventure structure over the past, say, 2 years or so, then I say you've got a legitimate beef. So the artwork throughout, I really like. Very even. It's not a hodgepodge of really differing styles. Of course, we've got a wide variety of different artists who are involved in this, but the art has a much more uniform style throughout. The various different maps and other line art is well done also. So I definitely like that. So as you can see, kind of get an idea here. Some of the things I'm not so keen on. First of all, it seems as if, now maybe this is just my imagination, or maybe it's really because I'm an old school role player and I have been involved in the hobby for decades and decades. Yes, I know, I'm old. I'm not super keen on this rolling dice for the sake of rolling dice sort of thing. And we're seeing more and more of that, where you'll have a situation where the dungeon master should be just handing over information as opposed to, oh, well, make this roll for whatever. Let's say arcane religion. And if you miss that roll, you're eventually going to get that information anyway from another source. So why would you be rolling dice? There's situations where the players are looking to discover, say, a clue. And it's an important clue. And it's just, well, it's a die roll. If you get it, great. If you don't, oh, well, you're not going to get that clue. That I'm not super keen on. And we're seeing more and more of that. And a lot of times, the way the information is presented in adventures for 5e is the players need to make a particular roll. And that's all it says. They need to make a particular roll. It's not if the player says they want to do this, then have them roll against that. No, it's just animal handling. Okay. So how are many of your players going to know? Because sometimes it's not super obvious because, once again, 5e doesn't have, say, like a Chaosium list of skills. There are very few skills. And, of course, there's the feats as well. But it's not always crystal clear what a player should be rolling. And I feel in many cases, the dungeon master is just simply telling that player, roll animal handling. not if the player does something or if the player is investigating something or does a particular action, then they roll. Yeah, I just see way too much of this. And it almost feels as if the dungeon master is just controlling everything and just asking players to roll dice. And it's weird, it's bizarre, but it is something that has been going on, and I'm seeing it more and more with the 5e adventures that get published through Wizards of the Coast. And I'm not going to lay the blame at the adventure. Well, I'm not going to entirely lay the blame to the adventure writers, the designers, because I sort of have the feeling that this is pretty much what's broken down and put in front of the creators as far as the adventure writing Bible. Just a quick interruption as I want to share who is the winner of my copy of the alternate art edition of Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. And the winner is Mary Cade. Mary, do me a favor, send an email from your Google account that's tied into your YouTube account. And you can send that to Jeff McAleer at thegaminggang.com. And please give me a shipping address to send this out. Do want to point out, I will be at San Diego Comic-Con, so this will probably not go out into the mail until July 25th. All right. Congratulations, Mary. And thanks to everyone else for taking part in the contest. Now, back to the review. And I find that shift in the adventure presentation and the mechanics of adventures to not be my style. It's just not my thing. I prefer my players to be telling me what they're going to do. And if it's not something that's like, oh man, that's a 50-50 proposition, or maybe there's less than a 25% chance of failure, I'll probably roll with it, no pun intended, and let them do that, especially if it's going to really advance the story. So I do want to mention that I'm seeing more and more of that. Okay, so let's flip the coin and start talking a little bit more about what I like about the adventures. I don't think many of the adventures I would run as written, mainly because of that die rolling I was just talking about, the rolling for the sake of rolling, or essentially telling the player what they're doing without them saying, well, this is what instigates that roll. But there are some cool adventures in here. Like I said, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but there are some really cool adventures. And each of the adventures also has a little bit of a gazetteer included as well that talks about that locale. And there's a lot of cool inspiration involved in this. I personally would probably be spending more time kind of taking nuggets from each of the adventures, or using the adventures kind of a bit as a framework, as opposed to running them as written. So lots of good ideas. The new monsters are pretty cool, so I like that as well. I love how real world societies and cultures are also intermingled in each of the adventures, and none of them are ever repeated. So it's not as if you would see 3 adventures that are kind of set in a Mexican styled culture. No, each one gets one. And once again, a lot of nuggets for you to pull out for your own adventures, toss them into your own campaigns. There is an underlying thread that ties these all together with the Radiant Citadel. I think it's kind of a weak thread, to be very honest with you. I would think many dungeon masters out there could probably tie these adventures together a bit better than what's done here in the book. But if you want to run this as a campaign, you certainly can as well. We also get a little bit at the end, we get some information about some other areas, some other civilizations that are still lost for the Citadel itself as well. Because one of the big deals with the Radiant Citadel is they are trying to find these lost founders civilizations that they've lost touch with. So that can open up a whole world of adventures as well. So that is essentially, see, that's the Beyond the Radiant Citadel right there that talks about a couple of empires that have either crumbled or they're just lost, and kind of could be up to the dungeon master as far as what the history ends up being. Anyway, so that's Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. Swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to share some final thoughts as well as my review score. So as I mentioned, I do like this book better than I did Strixhaven. So it's got that going for it, because I wasn't really a big fan of Strixhaven. But then again, maybe that's probably due to my age. You know, I already went to college. Why do I want to role play being in college? So, but there's a lot going for this. And then, of course, there's those ugly issues with the 5e adventures as of late that once again rear their heads. But I can at least say there is a good amount of inspiring info in these adventures. The artwork is cool. I definitely like the artwork. Some cool new monsters, some excellent new locales, and of course, the Radiant Citadel, which is going to open up a whole world of new adventures also. I got to be honest, I probably would have liked to have maybe seen one adventure get dropped so that it could, and I'm not picking a specific adventure. I'm just saying maybe if they had gone with 12 adventures, stayed with the same page count, and of course, yes, we have seen the page counts slimming down from Wizards of the Coast at the same price as usual, but I hate saying this. I hate the phrase, but it is what it is, right? It's all throughout the industry. Not much we can do about it. But anyway, I would have liked to have seen them maybe drop to one of the adventures to free up 15 to 20 pages that could have been devoted more towards the Radiant Citadel, as well as the gazetteers for each of the various different civilizations and locations that the players will experience throughout the adventures. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I think Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel is good. I mean, it's not fantastic. It wasn't blowing my mind, but I think it's good. I think it's solid. And once again, I hate to pick on Strixhaven, but I like it better than Strixhaven. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give Dungeons & Dragons Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel a 7 out of 10. So I do recommend it. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell, because it'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this review, it'll also let you know when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays live right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And as always, here's hoping each and every one of you out there gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.